Okay, it is playoff times in Masters Toronto, and that can only mean one thing, a pick'em. And who would have thought that Wolves would still be here in this pick'em? Probably not most of you, including myself, to be honest, because my picks for who would get through the Swiss, as you can see here, didn't go so well. I only got one of those four right. But actually, in terms of picking their games once I'd seen the teams play, didn't go nearly as bad. So I ended up here on 40 points overall, not doing too great. If you check the leaderboard overall, there are 3 people who have got everything right so far. I guess Achilles also did, but he's not here. In our group, the top is 75 points. I'll leave the group code if you want to, join the group as well. If you're doing better than 75, then you could be top of the TMV group. But let's talk about our games, because I think this is a great draw. I think this is all fun games. I'm really quite annoyed that this Wolves game is on the Saturday, because I'm going to a wedding and so won't be able to watch Wolves beat RRQ, but it is what it is. I'll also miss Fnatic Gen G, but I'll be back for the 15th and beyond. But let's talk about these games. Gli versus Sentinels. A great first pick from Gli. Very fun game. I know people are calling like, oh, Sen, they're only playing Chinese teams, but obviously that will stop after this game. But I just think that this is a good matchup, and I think Sen, so far, I think you could say, have been okay. Right, that's the narrative that I'm going with for Sentinels, is that they've been okay. I don't think individually they've been like, any one of them has been insane. When you think of like some individual performance, like Gen G, for instance, like Texture is taking over games, right? A lot of the Gen G players individually seem to be absolutely hitting, right? I think we've seen a pretty good Jing in this tournament. I think we've seen, obviously, Spring for Wolves going absolutely crazy, right? I don't think I feel that about any of the Sen players. Now, that's not to say that, they can't do that and they won't kind of, waken up as the tournament goes on. But I think that that's going to be the difference between Sentinels, probably finishing like 5th, 6th, or, maybe making it, to the top 3, maybe even a grand final, maybe even winning it, right? That's going to be the difference, is like, is Zekken hitting in his prime form? Is Bang, absolutely on it? Those are going to be the differences, and I'm not sure we're just there yet, to be honest, for Sen. But Gli are a big unknown, right? This is their first international tournament. And we haven't seen the play yet. That makes this game pretty hard to decide who's going to win. The easy thing to do would just be to go with Sentinels. But as I say, I don't think that their level of play thus far warrants being that confident in them. And Gli know what Sen are running on certain maps, and they can anti-strat on certain maps. So I am actually going to pick Gli. I know that's kind of strange. And I don't even think Sen are that, it's not me being a Sen hater, but I don't know. I'm going to go for some upsets. Why not? G2 versus Paper Rex. I mean, again, Paper Rex, obviously almost with the greatest, biggest choke in Valorant history. Luckily, they didn't choke that away. I'm still not convinced by them, to be honest. I mean, we've seen a very variable performance level from Paper Rex overall. But I think that G2, they're coming in as the tournament favorites. Could Paper Rex beat G2? Maybe, but we already saw G2, the worst version of G2 beat Paper X last year, and I just think that G2 will be too good for Paper X, to be honest, as they will probably most teams. RRQ versus Wolves. I mean, who I'm going to pick in this game. I think this is the best draw Wolves could have got. A team that hasn't played in an international, might be a bit nervous coming out onto the stage. Like, Wolves obviously aren't the best team at this tournament. I'm not deluded, right? I know that Wolves aren't the best team at this tournament. But I think that they are playing pretty much close to as well as they can do, right? They are kind of peaking, which still, like, a peaking Wolves would still probably not beat, like, just a pretty decent G2, right? G2 on a decent day for them would probably beat Wolves at their best. But a nervous RRQ against a team that perhaps is, absolutely feeling themselves right now and is in, like, their most confident version of themselves. I legit think Wolves can win this game. Now, RRQ definitely can win this game too, but I am going to pick Wolves, and I actually don't feel that bad about it. I actually feel like that it has a real chance of happening, because I think that they're just playing with a lot of confidence, and I think Lysol had some, rough games early on, but had a decent, game yesterday against BLG. So, yeah, I'm feeling decent. Fnatic versus Gen G. Obviously, this is kind of perhaps the biggest gigabanger of all of these games. Yeah, this is just an insanely good game, of course. Poor Fnatic getting stuck with Gen G again. It's playing out the exact same. Maybe Gen G will win this tournament. They look like they could win this tournament, right? And as soon as Gen G got through, it was very clear no one's going to pick Gen G. I think they have 4 of the top 5 rated players at the tournament, or something close to that right now. They're just playing amazing Valorant. And the truth, I think, is that I think it's unlikely that Fnatic coming straight out of the blocks will be able to match what Gen G did in their last game, right? If Texture is playing at the level that he was against Paper X, it's not that Fnatic can't play that well. They can, but they are literally going to have to play, a Fnatic 9.5 out of 10 to beat Gen G playing like that, right? Or even a 10 out of 10. Are they going to do that first time out on the stage? First international this year? First international for Kayak, the player that's been, their best player in stage 1? I don't think so. I'm going to go Gen G. Because I think that Gen G are they're feeling it right now. They're playing with a 7 map pool. I think that's pretty good for them, to be honest. I kind of like where they're at. Gen G, I think they might do very well in this tournament. Now, having picked G-Lai, I'm now looking back at picking G-Lai. And I'm thinking, just don't be stupid. Just don't be stupid. Sen probably will win that game. And Sen G2 just feels like it's written in the stars to happen here. Now, again, I think that G2 overall just are a better team. Sen did beat G2, don't forget, in Americas. So if this did happen, it wouldn't be impossible for it to happen. But I'm still going to go G2. I did pick G2 to win this event. Then we would have Wolves versus Gen G. Now, again, if Gen G can beat Fnatic, even if Wolves beat RRQ and they're still feeling themselves and all that, like, there comes a limit when you just play teams that are too good for you. And this would be that limit, I think, for Wolves. Even as, the biggest Wolves fan, I think that would be the limit for them. And, yeah, that's what I'm going to go with. Then Paper X versus G-Lai. Now, here's the thing. I mean, Paper X squeaked through against Team Liquid. And I think we know that with Paper X, no game is easy for them, right? There is no easy games for Paper X. And I do think that G-Lai will not just crash out. And I think the Paper X have shown enough weakness to where I can pick G-Lai and not feel too bad about it overall. And so I'm going to go G-Lai just there. And then we got RRQ versus Fnatic. But then again, when I think about it, Sideshow likes G-Lai. So I'm going to pick Paper X. RRQ versus Fnatic. Man, this would feel rough if both RRQ and G-Lai in their first internationals did just bomb out. I mean, this would be... whoever... Wolves need to win this game, now that I think about it. Because whoever loses the Fnatic Gen G game, that's not an easy game in the lowers, is it? For whoever loses that. So Wolves, we need to beat RRQ. Because you don't want to be in this spot. Because I don't think Fnatic are bad. And I think they might exact some revenge, if they did lose to Gen G. And this might happen instead. Then lower round 2, Wolves versus Paper X. Look, I think Wolves, could lose to Gen G, but they've already shown that they can bounce back from a loss. So I'm just gonna pick Wolves. Why not? I'm just gonna pick Wolves. And then Sen versus Fnatic. God, this would be a great bracket if it does play out like this. I kind of hope that it does play out like this. This is like a banger bracket. I'm still pretty high on Fnatic, so I think I am gonna go Fnatic there over Sen. But that would be a banger game and not a very easy one to predict, I don't think. Now we got G2 versus Gen G in the upper final. So we now get to the final 4. We now get to the big stage. Wolves would be on the big stage. Gen G versus G2. Personally, again, obviously G2 are a very good team, but I am actually going to have them losing here to Gen G. Gen G go through the upper final into the grand final. This, unfortunately, is where it comes to the end of the story for Wolves, but I'll take 4th place, to be honest. I think that's a pretty good showing. And then I'm going to have G2 beating Fnatic in the lower final. And then ultimately G2 enact their revenge in the grand final. And they do finally win a tournament. And Gen G, this is what happened to them in Madrid, where they went through the uppers but then lose in the grand final to a North American team. That is my playoff prediction.